Hello, and welcome to David Boles' Human Meme. In this podcast, we're going to discuss an irrevocable aesthetic. What does that mean? Well, we're going to take a look at it from 3 points of view: creation, memory, and effluence. Now, effluence is not affluence, a lot of money, or influenza, getting sick with the flu, or flatulence, farting, although some people may disagree. But that's a podcast for a different time. So, not a craft, not an art, not a talent or a taste, an aesthetic, something infallible that lingers in others after you're gone. Here's the dictionary definition of aesthetic: relating to the beautiful as distinguished from the merely pleasing, the moral, and especially the useful and utilitarian. That's a mouthful. Here's my earful. Do not fear the beautiful, for you are beautiful. And beautiful people make no apologies for who and what they are, because they are always forgiven because they believe in themselves. What about morality in aesthetic, as the dictionary suggests? Is that possible? Well, morality is about doing the right thing, and so is an aesthetic, a state of mind, a competency of being. The useful and the utilitarian. That's from the dictionary again, and I love that phrase. It might be a great title for a future podcast. Useful is something indispensable that you don't realize is really indispensable at the time of your doing and when it's no longer available. Utilitarian is tool-like, functional, ego-removed, the belief that each of us is the best judge of our own welfare. How then do we sustain ideas from mind to mind? That is the human mimetic that we're discussing. How do we achieve an aesthetic worth saving? Well, it's a process of dialogue. Aesthetic lives in the dyad between two people. We are one apart and joined by a shared aesthetic when it comes to living. Creation, distinction, then refinement of the idea by other people. Think of it as awards. I want an award. This is what I value, even if it is immoral and shallow. Okay. Make yourself a trophy, give it to yourself, give it to your friends, and what do we have? The Academy Awards, right? That's how it started all those years ago. Artists got together, said, we're special. We should be recognized for all these wonderful movies that we make. So let's give ourselves an award, we'll form an academy, and we'll just vote each other in. That's how it begins. Then it becomes more restrictive, more elite, more exclusive. Later on, it's this big thing. True of any sort of group or union, when the idea is formed, everyone's welcome. Then we put up the wall. Then we bring down the drawbridge. Then we drown people in the moat and not let them in because exclusivity means something. I'm reminded of the Tony Awards. Gerald Schoenfeld was a major producer at the Schubert Organization in New York City. And he told several of us in a meeting that the biggest show, not the best, but the biggest, in the worst financial trouble, will usually win the Tony Awards to keep business alive. Now, there are always exceptions. You can't deny a mega hit like Cats or Phantom of the Opera or Hamilton, but it's not really always about being the best when a Tony Award is given. It's about helping the best, worst show that is in dire financial hardship. The Tony Awards is advertising. Advertising sells tickets. So, is peer recognition important? Yes, initially, but only up to a point when it comes to an aesthetic. Quickly, admiration can turn to jealousy, and the aesthetic is not only removed, but destroyed in the divorce of function from idea. Now, the family can salvage an aesthetic if there is a connection. How will the family continue to create what you wrought in your lifetime when you're gone and they're trying to move on without you? Do they see the world with your vision? If not, maybe they make a new family of man, so to speak, to find those who will not just preserve your vision and your aesthetic, but propagate it beyond your life. So now memory plays an important role in this ongoing type of aesthetic that you want to linger and remain after you're gone. Will people remember you? Perhaps, perhaps not. They may remember what you created and not always what you hoped to leave behind. What was is not always is. Reflection is important. Reflexive action that is not static is also important. We earlier discussed the idea of craft. Now, craft is a subparticle of an aesthetic. It isn't it, but it's involved. There's hard work, sweat. Aesthetic is holdable, palpable. You can swallow it and taste it when it is right. Creation is static and ever-changing. Yes, that duality, creation, craft, aesthetic. Now, effluence. This is the effort of flowing out. Everything flows beyond you. The hard lifting of craft is over, and then everything changes into something surreal and uncanny. It's the area between the dead and the living and the real and the unreal. That is the uncanny valley, the center of the bright line dividing right from wrong. That's where the effluence of an irrevocable aesthetic lives. And you cannot pin it down, and you cannot always find it on your own. Residual thought, the borrowing of ideas. Stealing, no idea undone. I tell my dramatic literature students and acting students and design students to be inspired by others. And that often means, in context, stealing what they've done and making it your own. No idea is owned by one person. Just like you can't copyright or trademark a title, you can't copyright a dramatic function. Just use it. They've been around for thousands of years. And in that process of theft or inspiration, same thing, you make it your own. You earn stickiness through repetition. Make your aesthetic happy and joyous, and you'll be remembered more than fear and horror. What remains? What stays behind? What people choose to preserve is important. The salvage yard of human exploration is full and overflowing. These are all matters that belong to you, but that you cannot control beyond the inspiration of others. And I'm not talking about museums. Museums are really sort of horrible places because they only preserve what is pretty or what was expensive. They are generally not interested in the ordinary or the parochial or the everyday. Museums want stars that shine throughout the ages so they can raise money for their budgets to buy more pretty things. So, how do you create and leave behind in Irrevocable Aesthetic. You place it within other people, right where they'll find it. And you do that through discussion, teaching, and learning. One might argue that since you've gone so far with me in this podcast, that in some small way you've been embedded in my aesthetic. And for the bits of me that you may take away and decide to store within you, I am grateful. For without you, there is no transferable, sticky aesthetic. Everything is revocable, nothing endures. I appreciate your attention and patience and longevity, and I thank you for your thoughtful consideration. Be a human meme.